Hi, everyone.
Hello again. Ray Franz has been analyzing the appropriation of Isaiah 60 by Jehovah's Witnesses, and of course that's the chapter where you have doves and birdhouse holes, the way they translate it, and you have a prediction that you think is about you as a Jehovah's Witness, that God will speed up his work in the last days. And you think, of course, you're part of the fulfillment of that, but it doesn't occur to you, and that's why we all need to read Isaiah 60 over again, because it doesn't occur to you that the work that's being sped up in its own time has something to do with the restoration of Israel and Jerusalem in the text. So now, the part about Jehovah speeding it up, of course, is a following article that we've just discussed in the previous segment, the article from the March 1, 1985 Watchtower, which was called Shedding Forth Light Amidst Earth's Gloom, based upon the first verse of Isaiah 60, about arise, arise, let your light shine forth, O Zion. Verse 22, of course, is where God speeds it up in its own time. So we're going to read the Jehovah Speeds It Up article, partly anyway.
A following article entitled Jehovah Speeds It Up then lists examples of notable numerical expansion in various countries, and in its conclusion says, a quote on page 22, "We rejoice that in recent years Jehovah has so wonderfully cared for the expanding of the Watchtower branch facilities. Today, these branches are equipped to help massive flocks of doves. Therefore, let us all of us, share in beaming forth the light of the kingdom good news to millions more. Let us point all homing doves to the way of salvation behind the protective walls of Jehovah's organization, and increase praise to him at its gate." That's the end of the quote. Jehovah's Witnesses have indeed enjoyed notable growth in many countries of the world, some areas producing a much greater and more rapid increase than others. As seen, great stress is laid on such expansion as convincing evidence of divine blessing. But is a religion's numerical growth ever a safe guide or indicator as to its being specially chosen by God?
It is never pointed out that other religions, such as the Seventh-day Adventists and the Mormons, religions that, like the Watchtower organization, had their birth in the United States during the 19th century, have registered approximately the same rate of growth as that of Jehovah's Witnesses. Then he has a footnote giving some statistics about their growth as well as the Watchtowers. Ray says, for example, in 1961, Jehovah's Witnesses reported 900,000 members. The Adventists, 1,200,000 members. In 1984, Jehovah's Witnesses had increased to 2.8 million. The Adventists to 4 million. Mormons have grown in about the same proportion during the same period. A few years ago, the Mormon Church, which is called by itself the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, reported a membership of 6.2 million, of whom 2.2 million were located in about 115 lands outside the United States. The standards for determining membership certainly vary. Witnesses list only those who report time in field service, while the other religions referred to include a broader scope. But whatever the standard, the fact remains that the rate of growth of percentage of numerical increase is approximately the same. And I believe those statistics today are
Still
8.5 million for the Witnesses, but something closer to 15 to 20 million for the Mormons and the Adventists. And he goes on, obviously, if numerical growth were the criterion for determining God's approval and blessing, then the enormous worldwide growth of the Roman Catholic faith over a period of centuries, particularly from the 4th century forward, should be proof positive of its having enjoyed divine blessing. The standard used in validating its own claims is not, however, applied by the Watchtower organization to other religions.
If the goal were to achieve international status and membership, that goal has been attained. But if the goal is to reach all mankind with the Watchtower's message before destruction arrives during the lifetime of the 1914 generation, then the results achieved fall very, very far short. One need but consider that the population of China, now surpassing 1 billion persons, represents 1/5 of the total world population, and there are but a relative handful of Jehovah's Witnesses among that enormous population.
There are about 10,000 witnesses in India, but with its population of 915 million persons, that still means just one witness to about 90,000 persons. While the number of witnesses in India is growing at a rate of 11% in 1990, the population of India is also growing at a rate of about 26 million people a year. Currently, the average time spent in field service by each witness in India comes to about 1 hour per day. At that rate, even if divine judgment could be based on only 20 minutes of witnessing to an individual, the witnesses still could reach only a little over 1% of the people in a year. But India's population annual growth rate is about 3%, and a large part of the hours spent witnessing involved talking to the same persons on return visits and home Bible studies, or simply in going back over territories covered previously. If all factors continued as now, the annual growth rate of India's population, the annual 11% increase of witnesses, which is highly unlikely to be maintained, and if 80% of all hours spent were devoted strictly to contacting persons not witnessed to before, by the year 2014, the witnesses would have reached only a little more than half of India's population with such 20 minutes of a life or death judgment testimony. Moreover, that long period of opportunity simply does not fit the scenario the organization sets out, for witnesses are regularly told that we stand at the brink of the Great Tribulation. The ratio in Pakistan, with its 106 million inhabitants, is even more disproportionate. That is 377,224 persons for each witness.
The combined populations of China, India, and Pakistan represent 2/5 of the world population, 2 out of every 5 persons living on Earth. And only a tiny fraction of this enormous population has even the slightest acquaintance with the Watchtower message. It would seem to be sheer egotism for any organization to believe that a righteous and loving God could base a life or death judgment of all humanity on such a terribly misbalanced and fragile basis. To all this, one may add about 635 million more persons found in the predominantly Muslim countries of Arabia, North and West Africa, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Turkey, where again only a minute fraction of the population has been contacted. I recall that when visiting Morocco on a zone overseer trip in 1978, the Watchtower missionaries there informed me that the Brooklyn headquarters had strictly instructed that they should not attempt to witness to Muslims, but should restrict their witnessing solely to the small, predominantly Christian European population found in that country.
I didn't know that.
No, that was a surprise to me too. It would seem just to go contrary to the idea of integrity and having to
Faithful.
make sure everyone hears this news.
Yeah.
What, these people don't count? Does it matter?
So, of course, these numbers have got even more daunting since the rise of militant Islam right after Ray wrote this book, actually, with the first Gulf War, etc. And all of this begs the question, though, of put numbers aside, is the good news they're preaching the good news?
Yeah.
So we wanted to put on your screen, Paul curses the Watchtower good news if you take seriously the text that Ray starts with in this chapter, Galatians chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
Anathema. Any good news other than the one which he himself says was forever, because he and the angels couldn't change it.
Yeah.
So we'll put that link on your screen. Paul curses the good news of the Watchtower, but also Russell.
Mm-hmm. What was Russell's position?
And Russell was very adamant about this, that only a Christ-centered good news was genuine good news.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that moved the focus off Jesus Christ himself, and of course the Watchtower has done that,
Yeah.
proclaiming all the time that this is the only good news that is faithful to Scripture, which basically says that the church has been wrong for 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Russell was wrong, of course, too. We'll put that up. And next time, are the Jehovah's Witnesses really preaching in all the nations for a witness?
Okay.